This is the BodPod, the podcast where we welcome friends and experts to talk all things body image, self-love, and confidence. This is the BodPod.
Hey, BodCon Squad. I'm Rachel K. Grimm, your confidence coach and resident hype girl of the BodPod. We are here broadcasting live from Digital Click Studios in Brooklyn, and we are talking to the lovely Julia Parzyck from Fit, Fat, and All That. Julia, we are so excited to have you on the podcast today. For anyone listening that isn't familiar with Julia, Julia is an influencer and confidence coach behind Fit, Fat, and All That. She is a force of body acceptance and a body image coach. She is all about styling. She is the visionary behind her company, Soft Body Baddie Styling, and the Confident Kid Collective curriculum. She is redefining beauty standards worldwide and making waves in the body acceptance space. It only seems right that we'd be having a chat with Julia. So Julia, thank you so much. We're so hyped to have you on the podcast today.
I'm so excited to be on. I just feel so honored and I can't wait to have this convo with you.
I was telling you before we hit record that I've followed you for a bit and I love your content. I think it's so aligned with what we're all about at the BodCon. And, you know, our name, the BodCon, people are sometimes like, oh, what does that stand for? Where did it come from? Body confidence, right? And it got me thinking about Fit, Fat, and All That.
Yeah.
It is such a powerful name. That's such a powerful handle. I'm curious, what was the moment that you were like, Fit, Fat, and All That?
Yeah. This was like years ago, probably like over 10 years ago. I was talking with my aunt and she is just so creative. And we were just talking about like some different handle names that I could have. And she helped me come up with it. And it was just something I had been called fat and all of the names growing up, and I always just took it as this like negative connotation. And the reality is whether you're in a fat body, skinny body, whatever, like we all have fat. And I wanted to take my power back of like, this is not a negative word. It doesn't need to have a negative connotation. We can be all of the things and always be all that. And so I really just wanted to like take my power back from my childhood.
You give that all that energy in the content that you share online. I know you recently went on a trip, right? So you're showing up a lot in your bikini or in dresses, really showing off your body. And you made a post talking about how this is the moment for us to embrace our bellies, embrace our bodies, not be thinking about what our body could be, but enjoying life and existing in the body that we are in. How are you maintaining that level of comfortability and body acceptance when we see a lot of the industry and online rhetoric all concerning changing our bodies and that our bodies aren't good enough, that they have to be smaller in order to be acceptable or to be loved or be confident?
I feel like just in 2024 alone, I feel like I'm back in like 2005 and I'm so traumatized by all the content we're seeing this year. I'm like, oh my gosh, there's so much weight loss content. And I think like the reality for me is like I had an eating disorder for 10 years. I spent so much of my young adulthood and childhood trying to exist in a smaller body. And I existed in one. I lost a bunch of weight. I had the ideal body type and I was absolutely miserable. There was no joy to my life. I didn't feel good in who I was. And I know that like there are going to be days where those insecurities do come up because I'm human and that's part of the human experience. But for me, there is no going back to that. So I only have one option. And my option right now is I want to be comfortable and confident in my body. So whatever I need to do to get there and just feel like I'm okay to exist, I'm going to put my effort and energy towards that because I put my effort and energy towards the other of trying to be smaller and take up less space to be confident. And the outcome was not what I had hoped for. And I only like ruined my mental health and body confidence. So I'm like, I only have one option now. And this option brings me joy and freedom.
Yes. That is so well said. I think so many people are living in the alternative, right? Because that we're told that that's where we should be living. That's where we should be existing. And so to see you having a presence and continually speaking to that, right? That you want to be confident where you are, because I think we're witnessing a lot of people like shift away from that. It's almost trendy to no longer be in the confident space, you know? So it's really validating to see you still holding true to what you know has been not only your truth, but I'm sure something that you've coached many other women through too.
Yeah. Yeah. It's something I host support groups. I do styling and we talk a lot about things, just body image. And one thing I just want my clients to focus on, I encourage them to focus on, and it's something that really helped me lean towards more confidence, is this idea of just body neutrality and learning that my body is and know that like I can't be attached to this one image and only be okay with that one image of myself, because the reality is our bodies are going to change. And so how can I practice acceptance and neutrality with whatever my body is going to be?
I love that you leaned into body neutrality and the idea that confidence is beyond our bodies. Like, obviously that matters. Like, our relationship with our body is important. We are our bodies that we exist in, but there's so much more than just what our body looks like. You know, it's also our mind, our mental health, our relationship with ourselves, like so many other things. And so going off of that, I'm going to keep referencing some posts that you made lately, because girl, I feel like you're on a powerful like journey right now with your content.
I feel like 2024 has just lit me up. I'm like, I need to like get out this other noise and like bring back like the body acceptance stuff, because we need to hear it more.
Yeah, we do. We really do. And I can feel that from you. The reason I bring that up is you recently shared a series of photos that were unpacking insecurities that we can't see through the camera, or we can't see in the videos that you post. One of which is you considered deleting socials, right? Getting rid of it, saying, I'm not good enough. Maybe I'm not that impactful as an influencer. I don't know what I'm doing, so I should just delete it. And that was an insecurity you're facing that obviously no one can tell is going right. So I'm curious, when insecurities like that are flooding your mind, whether it be around your career and social, or it be an insecurity around your body, or an insecurity around relationships, what keeps you going? What helps you get on the other side of that flood of insecurity?
I just like love that trend, because Instagram and social media, like we always just see these highlight reels of like what everybody is thriving in. And I also have to remind myself, like most of the time I'm just seeing highlight reels of people's lives. So I don't know what's going on behind the scenes. And I think for me, is as someone who's, struggled with mental illness and ADHD and anxiety and depression and all of these things, it's just knowing that I'm not permanently in that state. Like I'm going to feel anxious. I'm going to feel overwhelmed. There's going to be periods in my life where I experience more stress than others. And as someone who has recovered from her eating disorder, who called off her wedding, who like has done so many things that were very stress related and brought a lot of like trauma or just stress and overwhelm to my life, I just know that I'm a very resilient human being. And I've proven that to myself over and over. And I know that like all of the things that I have in my toolbox, therapy, like reaching out for support, going for walks, making sure I'm taking care of my mental health, just all of these things that ground me and regulate my nervous system. I know that I can always fall back on that. I just have to hold myself accountable in doing those things. But the biggest thing for me is like, this is just life. And sometimes in life we feel more insecure, or we feel more stressed out or overwhelmed. And I know that I'll get on the other side because I have. And so I have to remind myself I'm not stuck here.
I was just listening to a podcast earlier today that was talking about how our past experience is learned and proves to us that we are capable for another challenge that we face. And, I think about that a lot in different terms, but hearing that was, as you said, like you just have to get on the other side. And sometimes it's a season that feels like it lasts way too long. And other times it's just a little blimp of insecurity, but knowing, as you said, like knowing that you've been resilient through these other traumatic or crazy moments, it's proof to yourself that you can come through like these insecurities that are flooding you at any point.
Yeah. I'm just like, I've been in a bad place before. I'll be okay.
Yeah.
I just like call my friend and bitch for a moment and I'll be good for today. Yeah.
You mentioned calling off your wedding.
Yeah.
In the same post, actually, you talked about a timeline, and all of us live in this timeline. I don't know about you. I'm a woman in my 30s. And so I think we face a lot of pressure around what our 30s should look like. And not just at 30, in our 20s, in our 30s beyond. There's so much pressure and idea of who you should be at 30. I know for myself, my path has not necessarily looked traditional. And from this post and what you said already, it sounds like yours has not been either.
I'm curious, any advice or tips that you would give to your past self, maybe your early 20s something self, or someone else who is currently battling, do I do what I'm told I should do and what seems right versus what I feel like I should do that might not be the norm?
I spent so much of my life doing what I thought I should be doing, whether it was like a diet or, studying certain things in college that I thought would like look good on paper or whatever it may be, or living or staying with someone that I shouldn't have been with, but I just like deep down knew I didn't want to be with. I think for me is like, you can't control it. And as someone who very much had this plan of, I'm going to marry my partner, we're going to have babies, we're going to get a home, like all of these things. And then in like a matter of a couple of days, all of that like kind of crumbled beneath me. And it was kind of this like, oh my gosh, like, how do I move forward? I don't see like a path in front of me anymore. And really just acknowledging that like, this is just part of life. And I read something somewhere where it's like 80% of the things in our life are out of our control. And as someone who struggles with anxiety, like I want to control things. And for me, like life gets really good when I just like allow myself to just exist in the present moment. And I'm more anxious and out of whack and overwhelmed when I'm just constantly thinking about my future. And not that you shouldn't think about your future. I think about these things, but I just know like I have this like deep knowing that like the things that I want and desire, I will have just because that is how my life is going to turn out. And I need to stop being so attached to this like perfect life that I thought I was going to have. And these rejections or whatever it may be is just a redirection to what my life is actually supposed to be.
I have been thinking a lot lately about how, again, speaking to being in my 30s, I have so much time left.
Yeah.
I sometimes pressure myself thinking it has to be right now. I think because of the world that we live in and everything is so instant. And don't get me wrong, like I love that. Like I'm a slave to the instant gratification.
Yeah.
But I've just been thinking a lot about how it doesn't have to be right now. And if I'm more patient and I wait for whatever that thing is, as you said, perhaps it will be even better than I think it could be right now if I forced it.
Absolutely. Yeah. And like the reality is like, I want to be married. I want to have kids.
Wow.
But if I was to marry the person that I was not supposed to marry and have kids with, then that's just going to take me down a whole nother path that I don't want to be on. I don't want to divorce someone. I don't want to have kids with someone that I'm not meant to be with. So it was just like, this isn't that path. And I need to let that go and open up my like life to someone who is meant to be in my life, who I'm like supposed to have children with.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm just like now realizing too, like the older I get, I just turned 34 in February, is like women are having kids at older ages now. And we don't need it. Like, I remember thinking I was going to be like 26 married with 2 kids. And it's like, thank God. I can't imagine having a child right now. And I would love to have kids in the future, but it'll come when the time is right for me.
Absolutely. You've been pretty vocal about that online. I'm curious about the freedom that you feel that has given you and maybe also the freedom that has given other women. If people have reached out to you about that, like what has that experience sharing something so personal and vulnerable online? Like what has that been like for you?
I think so. It was back in 2022. And I think for me, I like really learned how to have really strict boundaries with social media because I shared that I had called off my wedding and that like we were no longer together, but I never really shared the details of what happened. And no matter how many people were like poking and prodding and the Reddit pages and all of the things about like people speculating what had happened, I just knew that that wasn't the type of information I wanted to put on my Instagram. And it was just this very empowering, like, I'm going to stick to my boundaries. And I am really glad that I shared about calling off my engagement. Obviously, that was going to like be known because my wedding wasn't going to happen.
Sure.
There were so many women that had reached out and were like, I wish more people had talked about this experience. Because to be honest, I didn't really see anyone that I had followed that had talked about calling off their wedding or calling off an engagement and like what that entailed. And it's a pretty traumatic experience. You know, the whole thing was planned. I still have my wedding dress I still need to sell. Like all of these things. It's like a really traumatic experience. And I think it's also a very normal one. There were like so many women that were like, I just ended a 10-year relationship or whatever. We go through these experiences, and it was really nice to know that I'm not alone in it. And it really just like solidified my decision of like, oh, I'm so glad I didn't go down that path. And I called it before I got married. Yeah, it was just nice to know that like I'm not alone in this, and that there were other women that had experienced it as well, and kind of created this nice little community of people being like, we got you, girl. So it was really nice.
There is so much confidence in validation, and not like the kind of validation that's like, oh yeah, pat on the back, good job, but the validation in a shared experience.
Yeah.
So I'm sure just as like that was validating for you, as you said, it was clearly validating for those other women. And you mentioned styling. You do styling as a part of your business, specifically inclusive styling. Can you define for us what exactly is inclusive styling? What makes it different than a traditional styling experience?
Yeah. So I used to be an eating disorder recovery coach. I also host support groups. And one thing that I was just kind of seeing in my like research of looking at like different stylists and stuff like that when I decided to start my business was the fact that I didn't see a lot of women styling other body types. I just, and my own experience in styling as well, like going to photo shoots and having a wardrobe stylist, is like they weren't bringing options to me that were gonna fit my body or like worked with my body type. And I always remember feeling like really insecure because I was like, no one really knows how to like style my body. And so my inclusive styling, one, it includes like body image coaching. And so we spend the first part of our styling session talking about like any insecurities or any blocks that we may be having when it comes to expressing ourselves through fashion, and maybe areas that we're like struggling to show, and really breaking that down. But then I also am really inclusive in a sense of, I don't want you to dress like me. I'm not trying to get you to dress like me and buy from certain stores or whatever. It's really figuring out like, what's your budget? What's your style? What do you want your personality to be expressed in your clothing? And it's going to be a really personalized experience. And I think a lot of these other ones are a little bit more like cookie cutter of like, this is what we're doing. This is how we're dressing. And so I really just wanted it to be a really like holistic approach where you're getting so many other things within the styling session.
One of my girlfriends was gifted a styling experience for her birthday recently, and she's on the curvier side, and she's like mid-size. And she said the stylist, though she loved what she picked, she loved the overhaul that she did of her closet and her wardrobe, she felt was really speaking from a very straight size, her own personal experience with style. And so I find it so truly groundbreaking, really, that that is the point of view that you're coming from, because I think that is traditionally what we get in styling is someone coming from their own experience, which I totally understand why they would do that.
Right.
But it's really awesome that you think outside of yourself and more so of what the experience is for that individual that's coming to you.
Yeah. And just wanting it to be a fun experience, wanting it to be a little bit more than just about the clothes. And yes, I think clothes and fashion are such a fabulous way for you to really just embrace your personality and amp up your confidence. But so much more is like beneath the surface, and it doesn't really matter what we're wearing. It's more about like the confidence. And so let's work on the confidence piece, because then that's going to make the styling so much more fun.
The two feed each other, right? If you have this confidence, your outfit or whatever you put on is going to reflect an added level of confidence. But also there's so much confidence in putting on something you love, and it just brings you so much joy. Like I told you, I had to put on this little
I know
today. And I was like, oh, there will be appreciation for this. It will really bring the confidence. It will bring the vibe, you know? So
Yeah,
I love that you work with the two.
Yeah. It's really fun. And I've just enjoyed doing that with my clients. It's been a nice shift from what I was doing before. And it's just like a really fun creative outlet for me.
Say there's someone who maybe they can't necessarily come to a styling appointment with you. What would you say is like the item to start with or the place to start? Obviously, you said you talk about body image first. So maybe is that where you start?
Yeah, I think one, kind of figuring out, like I always start with my clients, and I think a lot of them are like, there's so many trends, there's so many different things out there. Like, I don't really know where to start. I like this trend, I like this but I don't know what to like piece together. And that's something that I just hear with a lot of my clients is like, I have lots of clothes, or I just feel like I go to my safe outfit and I don't really explore out of that. And so I want it to be a fun experience, and I want it to be all about expressing your personality. So I always ask my clients, how would you describe your personality and how do you want that to be reflected in clothing? If you were a bubbly, vibrant person, but all you're doing is wearing black all the time, how is that going to be expressed across your fashion? And so really asking my clients, we kind of create a Pinterest page together. We talk about the items they love in their closet, the items that they struggle with, and items that they need to potentially add in. And I always ask them, because every single day is going to be different. When they wake up in the morning, close their eyes, ask themselves, like, what color is my aura today? Or what is my energy today? And how can I express that in my clothing? Because the reality is some days I may wake up and I'm like, ooh, I'm bright, bubbly, pink, and I want to be girly. And other days I'm like, I'm kind of moody and I want to be like grungy and all these things. So not being necessarily attached to a certain aesthetic, but really kind of figuring out a couple of your different vibes and then building off of that and just asking yourself daily, like, what's my vibe today and how do I want to express that?
I love the idea of waking up and saying, what color is my energy today?
Yeah.
It's so fun. I'm going to start asking myself that, because I lean towards colorful clothing, but sometimes I lean into, as you said, like black if I'm feeling a little bit more moody. Also living in New York, sometimes it just feels inherent to lean into black. Yeah. How could I maybe lean into that moodiness and not wear black, right? Like what other colors could I wear? I'm curious if there are specific pieces that you find yourself recommending to your curvy clients, or are there any favorite stores? Any recommendations you have there?
So I'm a big thrifter. I absolutely love thrifting. Some of my favorite items that are just like really good basics is like an oversized black blazer, or like a leather kind of like blazer jacket. Like those are some of my faves. A basic white button down that I always get in the men's section because that's always more inclusive. And I find them for like $2 at thrift stores. I love chain belts. Chain belts are really inclusive too, if they're like the ones that are just rings, because you don't have to worry about like, is this going to fit me? It's like whatever ring you're at for that day, it's going to be perfect. So I love a good chain belt. And I'm a big fan of cowgirl boots. I'm not really like a Western type of girl, but I've really just started incorporating cowgirl boots, and I'm obsessed. And I just feel like it really elevates an outfit. And I'm a sucker for trucker hats. I feel like trucker hats gives you like the ultimate cool girl vibe.
It's a little scary, as you said, to find inclusive pieces. What are your tips to finding the more inclusive pieces at the thrift store? You mentioned the white button down is one you always go for. Any others that you gravitate towards, or a section that you would recommend?
The men's section. Honestly, they have just like a larger scale of sizes. And I feel like I always find really cool, like sweater vests. I get my jeans from the men's section. And I get them tailored. Like getting a tailor is also like the best investment ever. I never thought about it. And getting things to actually fit your body, because the clothes need to be adjusted to fit your body, not the other way around. And blazers, like men's blazers are phenomenal. But I find that like going to one of my favorites here in Denver is art thrift stores. They're usually like the bigger thrift stores tend to have more plus size sections than like smaller kind of thrift storage or vintage stores. I always am like, this is this big, like I'm not going to be able to fit in that. Yeah. So going to some of like the bigger named thrift stores, I find to have more sizing, but I always shop the men's section and like find good flannels, find good jackets. Like men's, you can't skip out on it.
Are there any style icons that you see that you're like, oh, this is where I get inspiration from? Mm-hmm. Or any like curvy, confident like style icons that you're listening to?
I'm obsessed with Emma Arletta. I think that's how you say her name. She's so fucking cute. I'm obsessed with her. She actually just
cowboy boots.
She
boots. Yeah.
She does. And she just launched like her like big girl brand or something, which I absolutely love. I also love Rayanne. She's actually in New York. I'm like,
I know Rayanne. Yes.
Yeah. Rayanne has just like the best clothing. I just feel like she's very much just kind of out of the box, out of the norm, and just like puts things together that just very much reflect her. And I'm always very inspired by her outfits. I think she's so fun.
Those are two great ones. I love that we have like curvy women that we can look up to in style too, because
Thank God.
Yeah.
I'm like, where was that when I was 14?
I
Would have saved
know.
a lot.
I know. Well, you said at the beginning how it feels like we're back in like 2004. And absolutely, that is the vibe, unfortunately, in ways. But I think that's what we have done over the past, 20 years since then is create a community of women who are showing up in their bodies, who do look like other women and are showing that every body can literally wear what they want to wear, can feel fabulous, and really express themselves through their clothing.
Social media can be a very like toxic space, but I'm like so glad that mine is so curated that sometimes I forget that like the other type of social media exists because mine is so highly curated with just like body acceptance and curvy bodies and fat bodies and disabled bodies and all of the things. And that's what I love about social media is like we're able to curate our own safe spaces. You just have to do it.
Yes. I actually just recorded a solo episode where we were talking about exactly that, how it's almost a source of accountability for yourself, right?
Oh, yeah.
When you are following people who really emulate the way that you want to see yourself, that you're
Oh, yeah.
so much more empowered to then act in that way. You know, there's what is the saying? It's like you are, or look at the 5 people you surround yourself
yep.
with most, right? And like that's a reflection of you.
Absolutely.
But I think our social media feeds are that as well.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. I just know that like 10 years ago, before my eating disorder, it was all fitness pages, it was all diet pages. And it's like, no wonder I felt like shit every single time I went on social media. And when I find myself kind of getting in that headspace, maybe internalizing some things, feeling like I'm not good enough, even with the like, content creator space or whatever, it's just, I need to take a pause. I need to get off social media. Maybe I need to mute some accounts or whatever. If now they're on this like diet journey, like I'm in control and it is on me to hold myself accountable. And if I'm feeling some type of way, then maybe I need to take a little pause and get off social media for the day.
Moving into summer, and we know we're going to see so much about like the summer body and everything. Any other tips that you have for women like stepping into that bikini for the first time, or even thinking about buying a bikini?
Yeah. Yeah. So one thing I do with my clients is maybe they're like, I really want to wear this bikini, but I'm just not feeling ready to like step out into the world, is I have them create a really safe space within their home and kind of practice at home. So maybe you want to light a candle, maybe you want to put on your favorite like girly pop type of like pump up music. Maybe you want to, obviously make sure you have like a great meal that day and just put on the bikini, put on the crop top, whatever it is that you are like, I want to wear this summer, but I'm feeling a little bit uncomfortable, and just practice wearing it at home and setting the intention that I'm doing this because I deserve to be seen in the body as I am right now. And as you start to feel more comfortable, like wearing the bikini at home or the shorts at home, maybe you want to ask a girlfriend, like, hey, I want to go to the beach today, or I want to go to the pool, or I want to go out to brunch and I want to wear this crop top and these like shorts. Can we go together? And FYI, I'm feeling a little bit insecure. Can you like be my support system for the day and kind of pump me up and just have that really like close, safe support system? So you can like slowly kind of start to put yourself in a situation that is probably going to bring up some uncomfortable feelings. But the reality is everybody else is so into what their own body looks like that nobody else is wondering what is going on with other people. And the only way that we can really get to a point where we're feeling comfortable and confident in our bodies and wearing the bikinis and wearing like the short shorts that show our cellulite is actually doing it and experiencing it, and know that like we're going to be okay and that you have the coping skills to navigate the uncomfy feelings that might arise.
Yes. I love the idea of just wearing it at home. I don't know about you.
Dipping your toe in a safe way. Yeah.
Yes. To see how your body moves in it and how you feel in it. Because I think I was recently with a friend shopping and I noticed both of us like trying things on, which that was the first time in a minute that I've like physically stepped into a store and like have tried things on with someone else.
Dressing rooms can be traumatizing. That lighting is like,
awful.
It's disrespectful.
Yeah, it is. Disrespectful is exactly it, girl. Like, it's so bad. But I noticed that we both, and literally, I don't think I ever would have noticed this if I were by myself. But I noticed it in my friends, and then I noticed that I was doing it as well. And again, I'm someone who I'm comfortable with my body. I'm okay with where my body is. But I noticed us in like what we put on, like looking in the mirror in very specific ways with our body, ways that really, can I say, like highlighted the clothes or made the clothes look better. And I love the idea of when you're home, just moving around in the clothes as you would be any day, anywhere you are, you can really feel what your true body is like in them as opposed to this like posed.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and I think that's something too, like a topic that I always talk about in support groups is when we see photos of ourselves that are like the quote unquote unflattering pics, and like we immediately get in our head. And it's because we're so used to seeing our bodies in these like perfectly posed positions. And so it's like when we can, one thing I did in my recovery was I would like sit naked and do my makeup and like just like sit in front of the mirror, not necessarily stare at my body, but just get used to my body just being and not being perfectly posed, and just like get used to my belly, like hanging out and like my boobs sagging or whatever it may be. And just, like getting used to like feeling what my body looks and like exists in without it being this like perfectly kind of posed position that like my brain is like, this is safe and this looks good. And then we get a picture and we're like, that's not what it looks like. And it's like, no, it is. And that's okay. You look beautiful regardless. Our bodies are meant to like move, jiggle, and we're not like planks of wood. So
totally being able to appreciate every version of our body, every way that it moves.
Yeah. Yeah.
You mentioned your support group a few times, and I'm curious, is this something that anyone anywhere can join? Do they need to be local to you? Tell us, go into a little bit more detail about the support groups, because I think that's an amazing resource for the community.
Yeah. Yeah. I love my support group so much. And anything in my business is a virtual option. My support groups are like purely virtual though. I run them for 8 weeks. It's just a really safe, curated space of women that just want to talk about things like body image issues, intuitive eating, joyful movement, all of the things that kind of like things like body neutrality, but they don't really have maybe the community outside of social media to talk about those things. So within the support groups, we do like breath work and meditation. There's always a journal prompt. And then I also do a little bit of coaching and teaching in talking about like things like joyful movement. And then we have a chat room and stuff like that. So everybody gets connected, and it's just like this really nice, amazing, safe space for women to be like, I had this triggering moment with my mom or my friend or whatever, and they don't have maybe that, again, that community outside of this. And it's like, oh my gosh, I'm not alone. Again, it's that like healing in community and that validation, like, okay, I'm not crazy for thinking this. So I'm super excited. I'm going to Greece in October. It's going to be a soft body baddie retreat. And I've done a couple like group travel trips before, but I'm really excited about this one in Greece just because the food sounds so amazing. But this is for women that maybe they don't have people like friends or whatever, a group of people to travel with, or maybe they want to bring their bestie. But this isn't going to be like your stereotypical wellness retreat. There are going to be some wellness components, but it's basically like, I just want to travel. I want to exist. I want to be in a bikini and not worry about what my body looks like. I want to be able to eat and enjoy yummy food and just be around women with the same mentality. So it's like, if you want to go on a trip and explore the world and not have to worry about people talking about like calories and bodies and all of those things, this is the trip for you. And I'm like so excited about it.
It can be so intimidating, one, to go on a trip, to maybe wear something that you've never felt confident enough to wear, maybe because you've been on a family trip or with someone that doesn't really support that confidence, right? And so I'm sure to have this community of women together wearing whatever the hell you want, like that could be such an empowering moment for people.
Yeah, it's so awesome. And I have a couple returning from past retreats, and I just love that like there's all different shapes and sizes. And I wish I would have had this when I was younger, just seeing women in bikinis that are in larger bodies or whatever it may be, because it is really such a healing experience to be around other women that just want to embrace life and joy and freedom. And we're not sitting around a dinner table talking about, oh my gosh, I'm so stressed out because I ate this for the day or whatever it is. We're talking about, oh my God, that food was so freaking amazing. And to go to the beach later.
Yes. I mention this all the time, but we did an interview with the plus size travel couple. Are you familiar with them?
No, I'll have to check them out.
Highly recommend checking them out. They are just the sweetest couple. They're so thoughtful too in everything that they share. And they really share their experience as a plus size couple traveling the world, and what that experience is like. And something that they did together is they had never shown up on a beach in a bathing suit. And so they decided together to challenge each other to do this. And they said it was such a freeing, empowering moment for them. And obviously that's a couple, but not everyone has that experience in a relationship. So to do so with another, a group of women is just,
yeah, and we're all taking pictures for each other and hyping each other up. It's the ultimate hype girl trip. I also have a course, how to dress like a soft body baddie. If you're I'm not in the place to do the styling one-on-one right now. I have a course that breaks down all of the basics when it comes to just wanting to figure out what your style is. So that's another accessible option that I always have available too. So Instagram, just fit, fat, and all that. And my email is fitfatandallthat@gmail.com. If you're I want to sign up for that, the grease, whatever, shoot me a DM or an email. I'd be happy to send over whatever information.
Amazing. Julia, it was so wonderful to have this conversation with you, to hear all about what you're doing. I think it's been exciting for me, confidence boosting to me. And so I know that there are so many people listening that will feel the same way from it. If nothing else, people who are going to be so much more confident stepping into their bikini this summer or putting on a piece of clothing that they've been afraid to try on before. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. This was so amazing. I love it.
Well, BodPod, thank you so much for being here today and for tuning in. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to this channel. We are everywhere that you listen to podcasts. And if you're not already watching us on YouTube, be sure to do so. You can see Julia and I having this conversation. And if you want to experience this conversation and so many more in real time, be sure to check out the BodCon app, where we are constantly having confidence boosting conversations, and we have loads of resources there too. Until next time, bye.